how to negotiate your salary, this subject is one of the most talked about subjects that I have found that happens with a lot of leaders that are trying to elevate in their careers. And if you are ready to learn over 20 years worth of experience as it relates to salary negotiations and what are some of the really important things you need to know as it relates to negotiating your salary, then you are at the right place today. By the end of this video, I'm going to share with you 3 strategies that you absolutely need to know as it relates to how you negotiate your salary. We're going to talk a bit about your mindset, knowing your numbers, and a few other things. And I'm really excited for this question. This actually was asked by a subscriber named Frankie on my channel and asked specifically about special tips as it relates to negotiations. So I have a lot to share. And in the short time that I'm going to be live today, I can't tell you every single thing that I know, but I can provide you with a lot of resources to help you on your journey. So in addition to what I'm going to share with you today, and if you have any questions in the replay or in the comments below, feel free to ask them to me, please. I will be more than happy to talk to you about it. Salary negotiations is one of my absolute favorite topics to talk about. I could literally talk about salary negotiations probably all day long, but I know you don't want to do that. So there's a couple of resources I want to share with you before I get started into what I'm going to talk to you about today. I have a salary negotiation masterclass that goes into a lot more detail to help you on your journey if you are really trying to advance and go to that next level in terms of your salary negotiation. I have some really fantastic tips there, and that is listed in the description below. Also, I have another video I did here on my YouTube channel that talks about salary negotiation as well. That is in the description also. And I'm going to share with you 3 things you need to have as you are preparing for a salary negotiation. As I mentioned, if you have questions, feel free to let me know in the comments below. I will help you on your journey. So I'm going to start by the following. I'm going to go over the 3 and I'm going to go into detail on each one. So the first thing you need to know as it relates to a salary negotiation is you need to know your worth. The second is you need to know your numbers. And third is you need to know how to communicate. Now, if you really want to go to that next level and go into your next salary negotiation feeling very confident and ready to get a higher increase in your pay, then this is a fantastic time for you to like this video and subscribe to the channel. I talk about subjects like this all of the time, and I really, really enjoy salary negotiations. So if you have questions, let me know in the comments below. Before I go into the 3 things I just shared, for those of you who had just joined, I want to say hello to everyone. So Jamie, hello, welcome, welcome. Molly, hello, welcome, welcome. I have Tyler, Best Light, welcome, welcome. If you all can let me know what part of this beautiful world you are joining from today, I would really appreciate that, and I'll give you a shout out here. If you have any questions specific as it relates to salary negotiation, feel free to learn from someone who has done it for the past 20 years. I have done hundreds of interviews. I've done hundreds of salary negotiations. I have been a C-suite executive, a manager, a director for over 20 years, and I will absolutely help you go to that next level as it relates to salary negotiation. All right, we have Fatma, hello, welcome, welcome. Hello, Mikey, hello, welcome, welcome. So let me know what you all have questions about as it relates to salary negotiations, and I'll share with you just a couple things that can actually help you on your journey. So there is a couple things to keep in mind. As I mentioned at the very beginning of the masterclass, there's actually masterclass that I have for you that talks about salary negotiations. It is in the description below. It is learn how to do your next salary negotiation and ace it. The second resource I have is another YouTube video here on my channel that talks about salary negotiation. So all of that information in combination to what I'm going to share with you right now will absolutely help you negotiate a higher salary. I do want to also preface this by saying that if you need some direct support or you're in the middle of a salary negotiation and you really need somebody to help you get to that next level, then reach out to me for a strategy session. I'll be more than happy to help you on your journey. So the first thing you need to know as it relates to your salary negotiation, the first no that I mentioned to you is that you need to know your worth. As I mentioned, I've done so many salary negotiations. And the one thing that I see that people struggle with a lot of times is that they don't know their worth. Depending on what the situation is, They may have either left another job because they decided it was time for them to transition to another role. They may have been terminated from another job, or they may have had a layoff from a job. And so sometimes that can actually impact your mindset and your self-esteem about yourself. And so what happens a lot of times is when people go into salary negotiations, they go into it in this mindset that they are the ones that really need this job. And I don't want you to feel that way. I want you to think of yourself differently. There are a lot of experiences that you've had, and there's a lot of things that only you can do. And so when you go into your next salary negotiation, make sure you take some time before you go into it to think of some of the very big milestones, amazing accomplishments you've done in your career that you can think about as it relates to your salary negotiation. So I'll give you an example. I had a client of mine who was going into a salary negotiation. She was actually transitioning from one role to a different type of role. So she was going from the academic sector into the private sector. And she was very hesitant about negotiating her salary. Let me share with you why she was. She knew that she had a lot of insight and had a lot of value, but she there was something there that was preventing her from being able to really appreciate her value and her worth. And so once we worked together in a coaching setting, we found out that a lot of it had to do with the fact that she has been in the same role for over 10 years. And she felt a little bit apprehensive about going into a different role that was not in the field that she was in previously. So once we were able to uncover that, she was able to negotiate her salary to the point where she received a $25,000 increase in her salary after we worked together. Now, this sounds like something that you're interested in learning more about, then feel free to contact me. Sign up for a strategy session. We'll have a conversation about where you are, and I will help you get to that next level on your journey. So knowing your worth is very important. Know when you go into a salary negotiation that you are special and you are very unique and you have a lot to offer an employer, and that you can be an asset to this organization, not that you have to be in a desperate state of mind to accept a job. And I know a lot of times when people are applying for different roles and jobs and etc., that they tend to basically take the first offer that's given to them. So in a salary negotiation, someone may say, I'm going to offer you a salary of $50,000. And they say, oh, okay, great, I'll take it. And they just go with it. And so then they start the job, then they see how much work it is. And then they say, God, I wish I would have took that. I wish I would have negotiated my salary. I don't want you to be like that, especially after watching this video. So know when you're applying for these jobs, you have something to bring to this company. You have assets, you have skills, you have your own expertise that you can bring to a organization, to a business, or whatever project you're working on. This is important, and this is why I mentioned this first, because most of the time there's this barrier in our minds as it relates to salary negotiation. I feel like many of us are taught, don't ask for too much. Don't be too aggressive when it comes to salaries. And it's something that I absolutely want to stop now with this generation. No, you need to negotiate your salary, and you definitely want to be in a place where you know your worth. So I hope that information helps you as it relates to the first no, as it relates to negotiating your salary. Now, I do want to share with you the second thing that I want you to know as it relates to negotiating your salary. Are you ready? The second no that I want you to be able to grasp as it relates to negotiating your salary is to know your numbers. You would be surprised how many of you have ever been in a salary negotiation and you felt like you didn't know what you need to get paid. I have many, many years ago. And so I don't want you to do that. What happens oftentimes is that people go into salary negotiations and they're so caught up in the interview process, who they spoke with, really putting on their best face. And when it comes to negotiating salary, they completely forget about the fact that they have bills to pay. And I've done so many salary negotiations where candidates that I've actually spoken to, when I ask them what do they want to be paid, they will literally just blank. Or they'll ask me what I think they should be paid. And this is something that I don't want you to do. So when I say know your numbers, that means take a few moments, as I mentioned in the first no, to one, know your worth, but then two, take a few moments to know your numbers. Get a pen, get a piece of paper, and write down what it is that you need. Now, I will share with you, I go into a lot more detail on this part of knowing your numbers in my YouTube video that is linked in the description below. So you definitely want to check that out. It has a lot of great information in it as it relates to knowing your numbers, specifically how you can calculate your number. So check that video out. I don't have time to go into a lot of it right now, but take a moment and just write down what you need to survive, what you know that you need for this job. And if it is not the right setting for you or the salary is too low, then you may have to pass on the opportunity. Just depends on your situation. If it's something that you want to talk about and you're not quite sure what you should do and you want to get some expert guidance, then reach out to me. I'll be happy to talk to you about it and come up with a plan to help you move forward on your salary negotiation. So we talked about knowing the first thing. The first no was that you need to know your worth and know your value. The second is know your numbers. And third is going to be the final no I'm going to share with you today. And that is to know how to communicate. You may be wondering, well, what does this have to do with anything in terms of communicating for a salary? Shouldn't I be learning some strategies? Yes, there are plenty of strategies, but I want to share with you how you communicate in a salary negotiation will either allow you to get the salary that you're looking for, or it will absolutely ensure that you do not get the salary that you're looking for. This is one of the reasons why I am so incredibly passionate about communication. And this is the hallmark of my channel, of my business, of everything that I do, because I know how communication can really help you or can really hurt you. And especially when it comes to salary negotiations, I can give you an example. So many years ago, I was negotiating a salary with a peer. And I asked the peer, what are you looking for as it relates to your salary and etc. And you know what I was told? And this is somebody that is a peer to me. They said, I don't know. I'm not quite sure. Now, saying I don't know and I'm not quite sure, you are basically giving your hiring manager the opportunity to make your decision for you. And you don't want to do that. Most of the time, and I mentioned this in my YouTube video, but I want to mention it here to you all for watching and spending some time with me during my live today, is that depending on the organization you work for, majority of them will try to hire you at the lowest amount that they can pay you. You may think I'm joking and this is not true and I'm just saying something that's clickbait or controversial. No, I've been in these type of roles for over 20 years and I'm telling you, this is exactly what people do. I personally didn't do that. I like to always try to give people more than what they ask for. I historically have done that as a C-suite and as a manager, but majority of companies are not like that. Now, there's a lot of great managers out there like myself that would be able to try to help their employees get more money, but there's a lot of managers that will pay you the very bare minimum they can. Now, I hope that doesn't hurt anybody's feelings and that you're able to really appreciate this, because I'm telling you insider secrets, and these are things that people just simply don't even talk about as it relates to salary negotiations. This is truly what is actually happening in the real world. And that's one of the things I talk about on my channel is real strategies, real scenarios that actually happen in the real world. I'm not sharing with you hypotheses and things that you might want to think about and you might want to consider. No, these are things that really do happen. People will really lowball you and pay you the least amount of money that they can actually pay you for your worth. So don't get trapped. Please don't get trapped. Make sure that you know how to communicate. So an example will be when someone asks you about your salary negotiations or what you're looking for in your salary, instead of boxing yourself in and saying a specific range that you're looking for, I always say, And this is more of an advanced technique, but I want to share it with you. But I always say, what salary has been given to other individuals that have my level of expertise? And I say nothing else after that. Silence is something that we've talked about a lot on my channel, that you can use silence to help develop your executive presence and to create space for you to fill the room. And so if you can say something like that in your salary negotiation, it makes the salary negotiator or the hiring manager or your HR person, it makes them think, because they need to think about, what is the salary range? The most common mistake that I see people make is they'll just say a number. They'll say, okay, I want to get paid $100,000. And that's it. But they don't realize that the range for this position could be 130 to 175. It could be lower than that. It just depends. But you definitely, please, if there's nothing else that you remember from this live today as it relates to salary negotiations, is please don't go into a salary negotiation and communicate a number. Don't do that. Ask for a range so that you can get an idea in terms of what they are asking for and have an idea in terms of what you want to negotiate. Being very concise in your salary negotiations is critically important also. If you come across as someone that rambles or someone that talks or is like saying, I don't know, I'm not quite sure, I really am not sure, gosh, I never really thought about that, I wasn't prepared for that. These words right there will automatically it's a check mark to say, nope, I'm not going to pay them this, I definitely am not going to pay them this, and I surely am going to pay them this. I think I got something for them. I'm going to give them the lowest salary that I can give them. And you may think that this doesn't happen, but it does. So when you go into your salary negotiations, knowing how to communicate is critically important. Make sure you're saying those very concise words, very affirmative words that will help you to show off your leadership skills and the amount of knowledge that you have for this specific role. Now, I hope this information has been helpful to you. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, thank you, Frankie, so much for the question. It is an amazing question, a really great question. I have so many videos I've done on this. I have my masterclass that is at a limited time promotion that is listed in the description below. Definitely check that out about salary negotiations. I have a video here on my YouTube channel that talks about salary negotiations as well. I'm talking about it now. And I literally, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, I could talk about salary negotiations all day because this topic is very near and dear to me. I have been in situations where, as a woman, where my salary was a lot less than the male counterpart. And believe it or not, what happened is I had education and degree and this other individual did not. And so I know that sometimes gender bias, it really does happen in the workplace, which is one of the reasons why I want to make sure I'm empowering women in leadership and other people that are trying to just aspire. Even if you're not in my target audience, that's okay. These are still strategies and techniques that a lot of times people don't talk about in professional settings because sometimes they just don't feel comfortable talking about it, or they feel like it's something you shouldn't talk about your salary. Well, the reality is these are conversations we need to have. And that's really my mission here, is to help individuals that are following my channel, whether you're in my target audience or you're not in my target audience, to elevate and go to that next level in your career so that we can build another stronger, even stronger than we already are, generation of communicators that are able to articulate their value and handle those very high pressure, high stakes situations that oftentimes we just don't get guidance on how to do. So I hope this information is helpful to you. For those of you who have just joined, I have shared with you 3 no's that you need to grasp as it relates to your next salary negotiation. The first no is to know your worth and your value. The second is to know your numbers. The third is to know how to communicate. Now, I've went into some detail on each one of these in this live. There's a lot of great resources. Check out the description below. There's a lot of information you want to look at there. There's a masterclass I have. There's another YouTube video I have as it relates to salary negotiation. And then you're always welcome to reach out to me for a strategy session if you want to get some additional support, specifically custom made for you to help you during your negotiations so that you can get the salary that you're looking for. Feel free to reach out to me at Dr. Jacinta Lamantai on LinkedIn, or you can contact me at Excite Excellence on Instagram. Either one is fine. And I appreciate you all for being here and watching the video today. I hope you get some value out of it. And I am wanting to know from you, what are some tips that you really appreciated in this video? Tell me, let me know. Or if you have questions specifically as it relates to salary negotiation, let me know that also. I promise I will put a response in the comments, or I will do a video just for you, just like I did for Frankie, because Frankie asked a question specifically about special tips on salary negotiation. So these are the tips that I would give to anybody starting off, in addition to a couple of the videos I have on my channel. So I look forward to seeing you all in the next video. Next video, I'm going to actually talk about what it takes for you to go to that next level in leadership in terms of being a higher level leader, an executive leader. There are a certain amount of characteristics, skill sets that you absolutely have to have if you really want to go to that next level. So I will see you all in the next video. I appreciate your support and have a great day. Bye for now.